So everybody, we have a lot of good news about the fourth stimulus check that I want you to know. So be sure to stay until the end of this video to find out more information about the fourth stimulus check and when President Biden is going to send us our fourth stimulus payments. Now, President Biden says that he is open to shortening length of new relief programs. Joe Biden says he would prefer to cut the duration of programs in his social services and climate change package, rather than eliminate some entirely. Now, as Democrats struggle to win support from moderates by trimming would have been a $3.5 trillion proposal, Biden's comments reassuring progressives on what he hopes will be a landmark piece of his legacy. It marked clear his indication on how he hopes negotiations over the bill would play out. Biden appeared to side with the strategy preferred by progressive lawmakers.
We had a really good, productive meeting, another productive meeting with the president, with the vice president, with Secretary Yellen. And I think we all feel still even more optimistic about getting to an agreement on a really transformational bill that will fundamentally lift people up with the priorities that the Progressive Caucus had laid out 5 months ago. We feel very good that the majority of those priorities will be in this bill. And I think the president has been working incredibly hard to get everybody to a place where we can move this forward and finish this process so that we can start on whatever is the next important thing that we need to do. So I feel like these conversations have been really important, and the president's work with the senators and then with our caucus in the House have been really, really critical for us to be able to move forward. So we're feeling good.
It marked at least a subtle break with Nancy Pelosi, who has suggested that most Democrats prefer to focus on establishing a few enduring programs. Biden said that there's no deadline for a deal. He also told reporters, "I'm on the view that it's important to establish the principle on a whole range of issues, without guaranteeing to get the whole 10 years. It matters to establish it." Now, what do you think about President Biden, everybody, in his fourth stimulus check? Should he do a better job in helping out the American people like you and I? Tell me in the comments below. Biden said that although he expects the package to shrink, we're going to come back and get the rest after it's passed, he said.
And then the aspirations that we have further down the road, let's do what we can do together. Let's get that piece of legislation agreed upon, that we can start working the framework of that and putting it together. That's going to take a little while. But with that being said, and we have the trust of each other, then we should be able to vote immediately on the bipartisan infrastructure bill, which is a tremendous piece of legislation for the president to take with him to Glasgow, and also knowing in good faith that we have an outline of how we're going to working out the details with all the fine print. That's where I would like to hope to be. So we'll have to see if we can get there.
Can it be done by October 30th?
Well, no, that's
Democrats on Capitol Hill are working to reduce the sweeping package to about $2 trillion in spending, which will be paid for with higher taxes on corporations and the wealthy. The proposal includes everything from free childcare in community college to dental, vision, and hearing aid benefits. They are all key items for progressives, but moderates have balked at the original price tag of $3.5 trillion. Biden said, "I doubt whether we will get the entire funding for community colleges, but I'm not going to give up on community colleges as long as I'm president." Bernie Sanders has also named Joe Manchin as one of only 2 Democratic senators who remain in opposition to the measure.
That we have proposed, the timeline for that is the surface transportation bill expiring, which is of course important, something we need to renew and save the jobs of thousands of employees who could be furloughed. But what our effort is and our focus is on is continuing to make progress, and we are getting closer to an agreement on a path forward to deliver for the American people. The president believes in the value of meeting face to face, hence the meetings today and his full day of meetings today, and we believe his view of the urgency here is reflected in the views of a lot of these members he's meeting with as well.
I hear you saying essentially that it's unlikely that you will reach, and I understand it's not your deadline, but still it's a deadline set by Democratic leadership. I hear you indicating it's unlikely you'll.
That's not what I'm not. That's actually not what I'm indicating. I'm indicating that we're continuing to make progress. We're getting close to the final stages here. We're working to get agreement on a path forward. We're making progress on that. I'm not going to set new deadlines. I understand why you guys want them. They're not particularly constructive otherwise.
Let me ask you about what Senator Manchin said. He said, "I don't know how that would happen." He went further than you are going. How can the president press for urgency in these talks when one of the top negotiators clearly doesn't think that this is imminent? A deal.
I think the president's view, which is shared by the vast majority of the Democratic caucus, is that he proposed these plans months ago. We've had months to discuss, consider, debate, litigate the nitty-gritty details. We're continuing to do that today, and it will come time soon to move forward and deliver for the American people. And that's something that the vast majority of the caucus agrees on.
Let me just ask you about the child tax credit, because there's been some discussion, a push by moderates for those tax credits to be limited to families making less than $60,000. Would the president agree to a final deal that only applied to those, that didn't apply to those making less than $60,000? And what would you say to families who say they just missed the cut and they need those benefits?
Well, there's a lot of proposals that are out there. I'm not going to speak to every single one of them. We're going to look at a final package. The president proposed an extension of the child tax credit. He has also supported at
Sanders stated this is a pivotal moment in modern American history. We now have a historic opportunity to support the working families of West Virginia, Vermont, and the entire country. Now, Joe Manchin has proposed holding the measure's overall 10-year cost to $1.5 trillion, and has said he wants to limit some healthcare initiatives to benefit only lower-earning people. Joe Manchin and Bernie Sanders stand respectively as among the Democrats' most progressive and conservative senators. Now, Biden has acknowledged this. He acknowledged the price tag of his package will have to come down. Biden promoted his proposal to make sure that carefree for lower-income families and ensure that families make up to 150% of the state's median income pay less than 7% of their salaries on childcare. It's part of a massive expansion of the social safety net that Biden has championed and is aiming to pass with just Democratic votes in Congress. The president's sales pitch comes as his Democratic allies have raised concerns that the American public does not understand the benefits of his package. There is renewed urgency among Democrats to push it through ahead of an end-of-month deadline on transportation funding. And the fate of the legislation, branded Build Back Better by President Biden, is also holding up a more than $1 trillion bipartisan infrastructure bill that passed the Senate this summer. House progressives are balking at supporting the Roads and Bridges bill until agreement is made on the path forward for the social safety net package. Everyone, I truly appreciate your amazing support. Now, what do you think about President Biden and his work on the fourth stimulus payment? Is he doing a good job on it? Tell me in the comments.
In terms of Social Security, Mr. President, let me be very clear. Despite what folks on TV may be saying and some politicians may be saying, let us be very clear. Social Security is not going broke. Let me repeat. Social Security is not going broke. Today, Social Security has a surplus in the trust fund of $2.76 trillion.